All right, it's that time to have some great conversation on a Wednesday morning. Yes, it's a hump of the week Wednesday morning. We are smack dab in the middle of the working week already. It feels like 2 minutes ago we were talking about Happy New Week and so on and so forth. But hey, here we are, 5 minutes past 9 a.m. on the 2nd of July, 2025. You're listening to The Smooth Breakfast. This is Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It's that time to get into the world of conversations. This is Lagos Talks, the space where we have the conversations, discussions, back and forths that actually matter, the ones that get to the heart of what we're all living through. My name is Ayokomi Kekireko. Great to have you join us this morning for a very, very interesting and, as far as I'm concerned, an important topic that hits closer to home than we often admit. Today, we're taking a look at PTSD. Yes, that is post-traumatic stress disorder, and the many ways that it quietly lives among us. And I know. When you hear PTSD, you often think of people who go through traumatic situations, people who go to war veterans, people who have lived through something catastrophic as well. But what about, let's say, the woman who survived an abusive relationship and till date, after going through that, she still flinches at loud voices, or the man who escaped police brutality, but he now can't walk past the checkpoint without panicking or feeling a sense of, should I say, danger. What about you? You may not even realize that you're living with it with what is a trauma, really, deep emotional wounds that haven't healed at all, and that's why we are here today to unpack this all and give some sense of meaning to it all. Joining me for this conversation to give us a sense of where it is that we need to be going is Benedict Sama. He is a licensed clinical psychologist who has worked very closely with individuals facing various forms of trauma. He's here to help us to understand PTSD, not just as a Western concept or what we probably call a quote unquote a madness label, here in Nigeria, but as a real and treatable condition. Yes, even right here. Very good morning to you, Benedict. Great to have you join me on the show.
All right, good morning and great to be here this morning. And I say good
Uh,
morning to all our listeners out there.
yes, indeed. Thank you so much for taking the time out. This is something very important. We don't speak enough about these sort of issues, and that's why we like to spotlight them on Lagos Talks. And for you listening to us right now, if you have any questions you'd like to ask, any experiences you'd love to share, anything you'd love to, should I say, bring to the table concerning this particular matter, please do. You can do that on WhatsApp on one hand, that's 0809 444 0981. You can send your messages in on WhatsApp. Messages are what's going to work at this point in time. You can also join us on YouTube. We live stream. We're at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can also leave your comments in the chat box there. I'll take them, and Ben will do his best to answer any questions that you might have concerning this subject matter. So, Ben, let's start at the very very beginning of this. When we hear the term PTSD, we hear it more frequently now, actually, especially in global media, but there's still a lot of confusion about what it actually means. So, for the benefit of every Nigerian who's listening right now, who hasn't had access to therapy or psychology education or any of those things, how would you explain what PTSD is and how it shows up in our daily lives as Nigerians?
All right, thank you one more time. Um, PTSD is a mental health condition, right? Characterized by high state of alertness, right?
Mm,
Avoid when an individual appears overly alert,
okay.
overly vigilant, start to avoiding certain situations, events, and places, and there
Okay.
is increased anxiety. All right. Now, when you look at or when you hear what I just described, if they occur as a result of this individual having experienced or witnessed threatening, dangerous, or traumatic event, that is
Mm,
PTSD. I described what the condition looks like, right?
Yeah.
Somebody is always, vigilant, tries to avoid certain persons, certain places, certain conversations, or certain locations, is overly, alert, right? And there is that increased anxiety. If all this, right, happens because the person has witnessed or has been a victim of dangerous or threatening or traumatic events, that
Mm.
is what we call PTSD.
Okay, that was very succinct explanation of what it actually is. And as you were giving that definition, when you talk about one, should I say, avoiding certain places, avoiding certain situations, avoiding certain things, being vigilant and all that. I started to think about different things in terms of, okay, if I not wanted to drive at night in a particular place because of an experience before, or avoiding this particular thing because it hurt me before in the past. And I believe a lot of people can relate to that definition, you gave just now. And we don't talk about it enough because there's so many things that we go through every single day as Nigerians that you can see, man, we're dealing with PTSD from this. It could be a near-death experience, an accident, a near-death experience where an accident almost occurred, that kind of thing, or a
Yeah.
robbery gone wrong, or even watching somebody else getting hurt. Now, these are
Yeah.
things that we tend to see every other day, especially here in Nigeria, like daily experiences that we actually have. Now, talking about the Nigerian context of things, you know, according to DSM-5, PTSD is diagnosed when a person has been exposed to all these things. And could you talk about some of the, should I say, uh, you know, the kind of experiences here in Nigeria that are most likely to lead to PTSD, even if people don't realize. We know how Nigeria is. There's a lot of basketballs, it's
Mhm.
fast paced and everything. What are
Exactly.
some of those things that we go through every single day that they're like normal to us, but those are things that lead to PTSD at the end of the day?
All right, perfect. So I'm going to join two things together. I want to add something to what I said earlier about what
Right.
PTSD is. Now,
Okay.
it is not a PTSD, it is not a disorder if it's not affecting your functioning and your
Mm.
productivity yet, right? It becomes a PTSD, a disorder, when it starts to affect your functioning and your productivity, because it's possible that somebody who have such traumatic, dangerous, or threatening experiences, or either you witness or you are a victim, but still it's not affecting your productivity, you are still functioning well, then it is not a PTSD that way. If it's a PTSD, it becomes a disorder, it becomes a PTSD if it begins to affect or start affecting your productivity and your functioning. All right. So just to clarify that, then looking at our own local perspective, there are diverse experiences. So I'll give you an instance. A couple of years ago, I was on a trip to the northern part of the country, and I was
Okay.
robbed right on the road.
Oh, wow.
My phone was scattered away and all that by some of these interesting individuals. So while this was going on, it wasn't only me. There were other cars and the buses. So they were gunshot, right? So when I got home, funny enough, um, if you try to bang the door, I will start to
Mm.
just banging the door, right? And I started feeling or hearing like gunshot, all right, around my house, even though there were no gunshots,
Any
right? So
loud
that
sound to you was a gunshot.
Yes, exactly. So that is an example of, for instance, of PTSD. Now, in our own perspective, right? Somebody who has witnessed or who is a victim of robbery incident, like I had, right? I had to work on myself, talk to a professional colleague to help me and all that. So in our own perspective, I mean, a lot of people have witnessed police brutality, law enforcement agent
mm,
brutality,
mm,
and
mm.
sometimes you find yourself sort of experiencing these in your mind, and you are scared even when you see people in uniform, right, not coming to attack you. You get bothered, right? Accident. Either you sometimes you are not even a victim of accident, but you witness a gory accident, right? Like a couple of months ago, there was an accident that happened, right? Yeah. I mean, it was a plane crash. It really got to me so bad that oh my goodness. Even though that was just watching it, right, via a media platform, but then it got to me really that bad. So we try to clarify that you can't get PTSD by watching something via a media platform. Though, however, it was really that bad. Armed conflict, right? We have cases of herdsmen killing, banditry, kidnapping, etc., across
Yeah.
different villages. Either you are a victim or you witnessed this and you luckily survived it, right? In fact, you will likely experience or develop PTSD. Some of our military officers who went to fight, banditry, terrorism, and they managed to come back. Many of them, report or have reported PTSD symptoms, right? Diverse cases like domestic violence,
Mm,
even at home, right? Among couples, among parents. This is also another example that can also lead to this. Father and mother, in this part of the world, our parenting styles can be very amazing. You see dad
yeah.
trying to spank, not knowing that you are brutalizing that babe or that boy or that guy, a sexual assault, rape, and so on. These are, and I mean, and then there's something we've seen in a couple of months now, or let me say years. We now you go to certain public schools and you see the way teachers caned those children, right? And maybe a child is not learning, and the best thing you think you should do is to hold on to that long cane and do whatever you know how to do best. The child develops trauma, right, from that experiences. The child wouldn't want to come to school again. The child will develop aversion against learning. These are examples. Or maybe you lose a loved one, right? A loved
Mm,
one dear to you. Or maybe natural disasters, right? A lot of, okay, I mean, very interesting one. Um, there have been a lot of house demolition going on in some part of the world. There are individuals that I have attended to that their house got demolished. Yes, exactly. Their houses got demolished. And experiencing that alone, right, or being a victim, they went into certain behavioral and emotional trauma that
okay.
eventually led into PTSD. So the experiences are diverse and countless, but those are some of them that I can't remember now. Thank you.
Mm. Thank you for that, Ben. And the thing about this is we often tell ourselves, I've moved on, or, na so life be, something like that. We tend to downplay these sort of things, but moving on doesn't always mean healing at the end of the day. And silence really doesn't mean peace. I'm going to take a break right now. And when we come back in, we'll talk about the signs. We'll dig into the signs of PTSD and so much more. Keep it tuned. This is Lagos Talks on the Smooth Breakfast here on Smooth 98.1. So far, so good, man. We go through a lot too as Nigerians because as you were giving that definition, I was just thinking of the first thing that came to my mind was the fact that ever since I had an experience, a near robbery experience around the heading to Echo Bridge. There was
Yeah,
traffic and all that. I wasn't robbed, but it was like an attempt. All those area boys that come to your car, that band, give me money, this one, that one. And ever since then, I never passed that route home again. Even if even
yeah,
if
that's
third,
what. Yeah,
even
that's
if
avoided.
blocked, if third bridge is blocked,
Yeah,
I will not
that's
gonna pass.
avoided. In fact, like I was telling somebody jokingly, the fact that you live in a country like Nigeria is a trauma on its own. I'm telling you, that's on a
Ah,
lighter. That's on a, that's on a lighter note. That you live in such an amazing, and then the research also says that majority of citizens in developing nations, right, looking at
right.
how the economy is being run, how governance, is being handled in those countries, that their citizens are vulnerable towards those things everywhere, left and right. You if you listen to news every day, you are going to, I mean, you get angry, bothered of certain things that you hear, certain
Yeah,
experience. Look at Benue massacre. These are really traumatic experiences. You can imagine people that survived it, people that lost families, right? There is no, in fact, how do you console them, right? That is what we call PTSD. It's every day all around us, right? People's houses are being demolished without compensation. Oh my goodness. I mean, those are somebody who has built his house. Maybe it took his 20 years savings, right, to build that house. Just gone one day. Interesting.
just like that.
Gone.
There is so much. There is so much going on. Okay, I'm going to send the link to you right now. The YouTube link. I'm going to send it to you right now before I go back live. Let's do it really quickly.
All
So
right.
if you, in case you want to forward it to anyone, let's see. Yeah. Okay, thanks. All right. Diving back in. All right, welcome back into Let's Talk this Wednesday morning on Smooth Breakfast. This is Smooth 98. Love music, love life. 21 minutes past 9 a.m. Second day of July, 2025. And we are having a conversation about post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD. And with me on the show this morning talking about this is Benedict Sama. He's a licensed clinical psychologist. He's given us very much needed knowledge about all this. Really, it's something that almost every Nigerian, or a lot of Nigerians, are living with or have lived with at one point or another. It's important to unpack the issue. So if you'd love to share your thoughts with us, experiences, any questions you might have, you can send them on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. You can also send those questions, comments on YouTube as well, because we're streaming live. Yes, you can join the live stream at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Those are the ways that you can be a part of the show this morning. There's a message here on YouTube. It's from Halima. Halima says, I can relate with Ben's definition. I was a victim of a one chance robbery in Abuja 10 years ago. Unfortunately, till today, if I'm in a car and the driver hits a certain speed limit, I hold the steering and struggle. I struggle with the driver. This is the effect of the PTSD I have from that experience. I haven't sought professional help though. I just find a way to manage it. Oh wow, now that is a big one there. Ben, do you want to speak to that experience by Halima?
Exactly. So that also, it's quite a bit close to what I personally experienced, like I told you earlier, right?
Mm,
So first of all, is just for you to acknowledge. I will talk about that later. Acknowledge
right.
the trauma, acknowledge the feelings, and find a better ways, a more productive ways to cope. And if you think you are unable to cope, and I think Alima is possibly coping well, right? I told you earlier that if it's not affecting your function and it's not affecting your productivity, right, it's
Right.
possibly not a disorder yet. But
Yeah.
then it's towards that, right? So if there is, I mean, possibly you are becoming unable to cope, then there's a need for you to seek professional help. Yes.
Hmm. All right, Halima. I hope that you're able to find that necessary healing because I can't even begin to imagine being in a car every time, and when the car gets to a certain speed, it takes you back to that particular experience. Even 10 years after,
Yes.
man, that is a serious, serious issue. But anyways, let's bring it back to the discussion. And before we went on that breather, I mentioned that we're going to dig into the science because PTSD doesn't always look like screaming or breakdown. Sometimes it could be maybe fatigue or avoiding certain areas, like I avoid certain areas really, or just being easily startled. But anyways, let me let you give us the insight on this one, Ben. I mean, what are the most common signs when it comes to post-traumatic stress disorder, especially those very subtle ones that people in our environment tend to miss or mislabel as something else?
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Like Alima asked earlier, right? That is one sign or a sign of trauma, right? So let me just continue by saying consciously avoiding places or situations or activities that remind you of the traumatic event, right? When you
Right,
consciously try to avoid places, you avoid events, you avoid circumstances, maybe you avoid certain TV shows, right? That will likely remind you of the traumatic experience. Yes, so that is a sign of PTSD, right? There is heightened anxiety. Individual is experiencing a high level of anxiety, right?
okay,
Because of what has happened. There's what we call numbness, right? Which is not having emotion, not having feelings, right? There's also what we call social isolation. Individuals isolate his or herself away from families, from friends. Being startled, right? Just a
right,
little, just a little happening or event, you you get startled. Somebody just closes a door, right? And you get startled as if something is happening again. So there's what we call flashbacks. Flashbacks is what we call re-experiencing, like as if that thing that has happened 20 years ago is happening again now. That's flashback,
okay, okay,
right?
okay,
So there's also individuals is always on the edge. Just a little thing, you snap. Yes. Some individuals may also, so because these signs are not like a general thing that everybody must experience, right? Your own
okay,
signs may not be the same that how we experience. There's also
okay,
nightmares. Yes, some individuals may start having or start dreaming about these traumatic experiences. So that's what we call nightmares, right? If you as a lady or as a guy, you now find it very difficult to go into another relationship. That sounds funny, right? You find it difficult
yeah.
to go into another relationship. Every new guy or every new babe you meet now, you sort of associate them with your past experiences. You may need to seek help. That is a sign that, oh, there is a trauma, right, playing out. Thank you.
All right, thank you for explaining that. And I'm actually glad you mentioned that, excuse me, that it's not a one size fits all when it comes to the signs, that what one person might experience as their own signs tend to be different from what another person is actually going through. And sometimes we might want to call it, let's say, bad character, or that person is just being dramatic. But what if it's actually an emotional injury? There are physical injuries, there are also emotional injuries as well. And according to the WHO, I'd like to just throw in a little bit of facts and figures here. That's the World Health Organization. Trauma-related mental health conditions like PTSD are vastly underdiagnosed in African countries. And it's mostly due to stigma and limited awareness as well. The awareness is something we're dealing with right now. That's why we're on the show, really. But that stigma, it's actually a very big deal. And before we take a very quick break here, Ben, from your experiences, from your practice, how much of an issue has that stigma been in trying to help people who are dealing with issues like PTSD and so on and so forth?
All right. So like you said earlier from that WHO data, right? Because of our religious background in this part of the world and our cultural perspectives, individuals, and because there is little knowledge and awareness about mental health. So it's not even only PTSD.
Mm.
anything related to mental health or mental illness, there is that stigmatization, right?
Yeah.
People will likely associate it to demonism, or that you should go to church, or oh, I mean, this person is crazy. And I keep telling them, the way you have malaria and you get treated is the same way somebody has PTSD and goes for therapy and gets treated. So it's because people have refused to come out to speak up because we have demonized anything related to mental illness or mental health. So it's it's a big deal, it's a big issue. We have it every day. The ones who manages to reach out, they do it codedly. And I commend them for the strength and the courage, to reach out.
All right, thank you for that, Ben. Let's take this break right now, and then when we come back in, we'll dive deeper into that. We'll look at culture, we'll look at religion and stigma around issues like PTSD and so much more. Don't go anywhere. Keep it tuned and keep those messages coming in. I've seen a couple of questions and comments already. I'll take them one by one when we come back in from this breather. Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1. We'll be back in a moment. Seen a couple of interesting questions and comments here.
All
Mm,
right.
okay. Okay. One, two, three. Yes. They'll keep coming. We
So,
don't we don't we don't we
so
don't talk
people are
about
listening.
this sort of things. We don't talk about them too often. They're like taboo in a way. Or
Yes,
or
exactly.
better say, it's art. It's an Oyibo sort of something, it doesn't
Yes,
affect us.
I agree with it.
Down
I
to the
agree.
very
Or sometimes people also believe that that individual is just being a weak person. Is a
mm,
weak person. You are weak. Come on, move on. Yeah, what's the big deal? Move on. Right. So they see them as
exactly.
being weak, and it's not being weak. It's a condition. Yes. So why would you again? It's because we are in Africa, right? And not only Africa, I would say Nigeria, because it is not all part of African nations. Now, last time I was in Cape Town, almost every street you will see psychology clinic. You will see somebody telling you, "Oh, I want to
Mm,
see my psychologist. I want to see my psychiatrist." I mean, I'm telling you, yeah, in Cape Town. But then, if you say that in Nigeria, you tell your friend, "I need to see my psychiatrist," they will start asking you, "You don't colo? What happen?" You
that,
you know,
that is very true.
yes. So
That is very true.
on your boats, they don't say anything big deal in it, anything big actually.
Mm,
Yeah.
all right. Let's dive back in. Welcome back. It's the second half of the show this morning. This is Lagos Talks on the Smooth Breakfast, Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life, 32 minutes past 9. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. A great time for great conversation. And that is what we're having at this time. We're talking about PTSD, that is post-traumatic stress disorder. My name is Ayokumi Kekiriako. And of course, my guest this morning, who is giving us very much needed knowledge and information, is Benedict Sama. He's a licensed clinical psychologist. So, he's the person that you want to ask those very important questions where this is concerned. Any misconceptions you might have, anything you've heard about PTSD and so on that you are unsure of, he's the one that will set you straight. So send those messages in, those comments, those questions that you have. Send them in on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 981. That is the WhatsApp number. You can also join the live stream on YouTube. Leave a comment there as well, and I'll take them most definitely. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Those are the ways you can be a part of the show this morning. Let me take a few messages before we get back into the conversation. This is from Samuel. He's in Surulere. He says, um, I was robbed at gunpoint 3 years ago, and I still get jumpy whenever I see men on bikes or hear loud bangs. I've never talked about it because people say I should man up. Is this PTSD or am I overthinking it? So I, Simon, I think you know what the answer is. And I think Ben is ready smiling, on my screen. Ben, classic case of
All right.
PTSD.
Yes. So again, I also want to clarify that that may be a case of PTSD, right? However, because there are other associated emotional responses that come along with PTSD that we'll have to assess, before we can conclude that it is PTSD. All right.
Okay.
So if some of those things are not, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, re-experiencing the event, you're having flashback,
Mm,
insomnia, heightened anxiety, hypervigilance, numbness, all this, right, is not only avoidance, right? So that is why it is good that we go for a proper diagnosis. But that is a case of trauma, right? It's already
okay.
looking at trauma, but then, I mentioned the word disorder before we can classify it as a PTSD, right? Every other symptom and sign they have to be met. That's why it is good that individuals should not just label themselves having PTSD. They
Mm,
should go for proper assessment, proper evaluation to before they can arrive at that. But it is good that you know that yes, something is not going on well, right? And then acknowledging that alone, it's the first step to your healing. So I can understand.
mm. Now, talking about healing, this is another message. This is from Chinwe. She's in Yaba. Now she says, "Thank you for this topic. You're very welcome. I grew up in a home with daily domestic violence, and now I can't handle shouting. I either freeze or start crying. I didn't know this could be trauma. How do I start healing when I can't even afford therapy?" Uh, Very, very, very important question there. Because therapy, it's not moi moi, as they say.
All right. So it is interesting that you've identified that there's an issue somewhere. So that's the first step. And then I want you to remember that you are not the cause of what you've gone through, right? Your trauma is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility, right?
Mm,
Acknowledge the trauma, right? Which is very important. Then seek support if possible. Seek support of friends around you, understanding friends, well-informed support systems and friends. And you can start practicing certain, um, self-care practices like exercises and mindfulness and meditation. Some of these things will help you to be in the moment. They will ground you, right? And help you to cope a lot more better. And the much more is for you to know that you've got to separate whatever event that have happened has happened in the last couple of years from yourself, right? You are not the event. You are not the circumstances.
mm,
And then you don't need to blame yourself again. You don't need to think, oh, maybe there's something I should have done better. There is that sense of guilt that, oh, maybe I should have done something better. Maybe I'm the cause of this. You are not the cause of this, right? If you could have helped, you would have helped yourself. And that is why you are going through this. Acknowledge the trauma, seek support, practice self-care, right? Have somebody around you, like a support systems that you talk to, that you relate with. And
mm.
believe me, don't forget this. Most times it is your thought, right, that keeps bringing it. So don't believe in whatever your thoughts suggest to you. Yes. So you need to understand that because ideally something has happened 30 years ago. Why am I still having it now? Or it is because my mind keeps bringing them, right? Keeps suggesting them. So you've got to detach yourself from those thoughts. The thought will come, but don't take those thoughts as the real definition of reality because in the real sense, it's happened. If it will have been more than this or is going to be more disastrous, you would not still be alive existing by now, right? So
Mm.
don't believe much more in whatever your thought is saying. And don't take your feelings too seriously, right?
Okay,
Don't
okay,
take your
okay.
feelings too seriously. If you were not going to survive this thing, right, as your feelings was suggesting and has been telling you, you would not still be here today. That you are here today means that your feelings has not been the real definition of reality. So don't take it too seriously. You are doing well, you are coping, believe in yourself, trust the process, and then if you can reach out to, there are many professionals around us sometimes who can also talk to you, at no cost really. Um, so you may still try to reach out to one or two people, a psychologist or a trauma therapist. I mean, you never can tell, right? They could be of help. maybe just one session, just an advice, and you may be so lucky to get such help from me. Thank you.
Right. All right. Thank you for that, Ben. Still a couple of messages, but I just want us to get back into the discussion now. Come back to the messages. A number of comments and questions are waiting for me on WhatsApp. I was going to talk about how we respond to trauma as a society. In many homes, you hear just pray about it, be strong, or just forget it. It's not a big deal, that kind of thing. But what does that do to someone who is already psychologically wounded? I mean, how do cultural and religious expectations in Nigeria affect the way we process or even ignore trauma? And how does that affect or impact the healing process?
Can you read that again?
I said, how do cultural and religious expectations here in Nigeria affect the way we process or ignore trauma? We do that a lot. And in what way does it impact the process of healing?
All right. Yes. So, number one, right? There's a way we practice religion in this part of the world. For instance, if you go to number one, you listen to certain religious leaders, and they tell you that there is nothing like PTSD. Yes, that there's nothing like somebody having mental health issues, right? So they downplay it, and if you peradventure go to complain about it, they possibly will tell you to come for deliverance. Yes, you have to go for deliverance, um, or they tell you that maybe you are being possessed by certain demons or by certain spirit. That is what is happening in some religious, organizations out there. So because of this, right, it has really affected, um people's willingness to reach out, people's willingness to
Mm,
speak up
to
one way
seek
or the other.
help. Yeah,
Yes, to seek help. In the other way around, right? The other way around is also that I must also confess or say that religion is also, if used properly, right, is also a good coping mechanism, right? Because you want to, while you continue with your therapeutic process, you want to hold on to whatever you believe in. Yes, you want to hold on to whatever you believe in as an anchor, as a hope for you. Because for individuals, we respect their religious beliefs. If that is like your source of hope while you
yeah,
continue with your healing processes, oh, it's been very helpful for people, and we encourage them to keep holding on to whatever they believe. If you believe in a broom, that, oh, this broom is your source, is your hope, oh, why not continue holding on to that? Why, again, you should not jeopardize or neglect the place of proper psychological therapy and intervention. So there are two ways to it. So it's a spectrum, right? Some people try to downplay, to demonize, and it prevents people from speaking up. If they speak up, they take them through deliverance, and coming out from deliverance, you become more traumatic, right?
yeah,
Maybe for churches or certain religious background. So when they start their praying process, what they do is they possibly take brooms and whip somebody with brooms and cane because they want to chase away the demon, right? This is not a demon, I want to say. It's an illness, it's a mental health condition. The same way you have malaria and you go for treatment is the same way you have certain mental health conditions and you should go for therapy. Talk to your psychologist. Thank you.
mm. You know, at the end of the day, it's really not about disrespecting faith at all. I mean, far from it. But healing from trauma is often a body, mind, spirit journey, and sometimes the mind needs help too. Because, as I mentioned before, people can get physically unwell. You can also get mentally unwell, and that is something that needs to be understood. That as the body sometimes needs to be healed, the mind also needs to be healed as well. So it's not always a function of village people or demons or so on and so forth. It just is the fact of life that the mind, just as the body sometimes goes through certain things and needs healing and needs help in that regard. Let me take my final break of the morning and we'll come back in. continue the conversation, take a couple of more messages, and Ben will bring it all home for us as we get to the finish line on Lagos Talks this morning. Don't go anywhere. Keep it tuned. All right, one more break, and we'll try to just rush through before 9:55. That's like 10 minutes.
Do we still have questions?
Yes, that there are like about two or three. I'll take them when I come in before I now go back to the main. I might even
Okay, that's
skip.
good.
I might even skip some questions because of time.
Time, right?
Just feels like an hour is not enough. You know?
And except you want to possibly do it some other time, but if not, there are still other mental health conditions that can be discussed that people may have interest in,
Yeah,
so that they
yes,
don't, so that we don't bother them with
that's true.
PTSD at times.
Uh, we'll talk about that behind the scenes and figure out what is
All
or
right.
what is most feasible that we can now, come back and do another time.
Okay.
Because all these issues that are not spoken about often enough, or we like to just go around it and try to avoid. I like to bring them up.
Exactly.
So we'll plan something in that regard. Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, that awareness is really key. Maybe just about 2 years ago to now, that's when we started having some sort of awareness. Before, mental health wasn't anything to talk about in Nigeria. So a
Mm,
lot of people didn't want to mention about it. They would take it for demon, for
yeah,
possessed by spirit. But there's improvement, I would say, really, in a couple of times. Yes, no.
and that is beautiful to see. Let's hope it just gets better and better.
Mm.
All right, welcome back into Lagos Talks on the Smooth Breakfast. Smooth 98.1 is where you're tuned into. Love music, love life, love great conversation as well. It's 47 minutes past 9 a.m. Ayokumi here. Alongside me is my very special guest in the person of Benedict Sama. He is a licensed clinical psychologist. Yes, he's laying all the information on us this morning, sharing some very much needed knowledge, and I really hope we've been able to take a couple of things from the conversation thus far, really and truly, because these are things that need to be spoken about, brought to the fore. You can send messages in any questions that you have. Please do send them in before we wrap up on the show. 0809 444 is the WhatsApp number. YouTube, you can leave your comments on the live stream. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. There's a message here on YouTube. This is from Adeyanju Blessing Adedimeji that says, thank you for sharing from your wealth of knowledge. Thank you for tuning in, Adeyanju Blessing. Great to have you on the show. Let me take a message or two very quickly before I come back to the conversation fully with you, Ben. This is Tunde. Tunde is in Aja. He says, can PTSD come from non-violent things? I lost my job and home during the COVID lockdown, and since then, I panic over any small financial setback. I thought I was paranoid until I tuned in into the show. Ben, what do you think about this?
Yes, so I would say again, it doesn't need to really be, there is no definition that says that it has to only be violent, right? When I said earlier, I said threatening or
Mm,
dangerous. So that was a threatening adventure. That was a threatening event. Why? It threatened your financial status. It
mm,
threatened your your existence, sort of, right? It threatens your ego, right? So why that may not be PTSD, I will say, but that is a trauma-related event, but
right.
it may not be PTSD, but it is possibly a trauma-related event. All right, because it was a traumatic experience for you, but it may not be PTSD. That's more of a trauma.
All right. I hope that answers that question. Okay, let me take just one more. This is the last one that is here. This one is anonymous. It says, "My friend survived a boat accident and has completely withdrawn socially. He avoids the water, loud noises, even crowds. He won't talk to anyone. I mean, how do you help someone who refuses help?" Oh man, that sounds really deep.
Yes, so this looks like PTSD, even though that's not a proper, I mean, so that's not a full diagnosis. For this kind of situation is for you to possibly seek help, right, for your friend. Very important. You need to read, first of all, read and study about PTSD because you try to help someone, you must know about what you want to help someone about,
Mm,
right? You can't
right,
give what
right,
you
right.
don't know about PTSD. For any family member out there, any friend, you want to help somebody going through this kind of situation, know about PTSD. Number two, try to understand their specific triggers. Now, in this case, you mentioned both accident, right? And then I will also encourage, don't be a judge, be a supportive listener. Be a supportive listener. Always try to create a safe environment for him, right? And most importantly, this appears to be like a big issue, right? Which is possibly already affecting his functioning and productivity. You will need to seek professional help, right? So that he can be helped. And because it is not a death sentence, right? It's just a mental health condition that requires sort of help. So seek professional help for him if you're unable to help from what I've just read out.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that, Ben. And before we wrap up on the conversation, you in response to that message, you talked about seeking help and so on and so forth, and that is on the road to healing. But what does healing from PTSD actually look like? And what would you say are some of the most realistic uh, first steps, affordable, probably first steps that one can take, at least from a Nigerian context?
Okay. All right. So number one, the first step, number one, right, I would say it's for you to recognize, right? Recognize or acknowledge the trauma. Yes, acknowledge the trauma. Very important, right? The fact that so a lot of people try to deny the fact that they are going through traumatic experiences. There's no need denying again. Recognize because that now there's what we call acceptance and commitment therapy. It is
Okay.
when you have accepted that I am going through stuff, I have something to deal with, that healing can then start. If you have not acknowledged and you haven't accepted, there is no way you can even go for any healing process, therapy, and there's no way anybody will talk to you about your healing that you will agree because you yourself you have not even accepted that, right? Then, then practice self-care. A lot of people we don't understand the importance of self-care practices, right? Your early morning workout or your evening exercises and all that, they are very impactful, they are very helpful for your mental wellness, right? Your workout sessions are very helpful. Your
Right.
whatever helps you to cope, right? Because it is not a general approach, it is individualistic, it is specific, right? Whatever helps you to cope. For somebody, maybe music, for somebody, maybe social support. In fact, like I said earlier, for somebody, it could be their religious, belief, right? Religion may also help somebody to cope, right? Socialize. For people, for someone, it could be movie, right? They go out there, they go for shopping, they go for, movie night. So those are different coping mechanisms for different people, right? Now, what does healing looks like? Now, healing looks like, for instance, when you say you are going through healing or healing is occurring,
Mm,
individuals is beginning to regain a sense of safety and control, right? Before you appear to have lost control, right, over the present or over your current circumstance, condition, or your state of mind. But now you are regaining a sense of control and a sense of safety. You are able to manage your triggers properly, right? You are able to
Right.
manage the trigger and it's no longer affecting your productivity. Learning is taking place. And you are now able to, you are now feeling connected with the present and the future. Because initially, sorry, earlier, there is a disconnect, right, between the past, the present, and the future. But now, once healing starts taking place, you feel like you have a sense of connection. There is a connect now between you, the present, and the future. These are the ways to know that, yes, healing, I think healing is taking place.
So much has been said this morning. Thank you for that, Ben. And you know what? It's been quite the enlightening session that we've had up until this point. And I said this, off the air, that this is not the conversation that you have within 1 hour. There is just so much to actually unpack where this is concerned. But we need to bring this plane to a land. And Ben, I will just ask you this: what final message would you like to leave for everyone who's listening right now, especially for those who have gone through trauma but haven't named it or even sought help? Just wrap it up for us very quickly.
Okay, yes. So I want to say like that trauma or PTSD is not a death sentence. It's just a mental health condition, right? It is not demonism. It does not mean that you are less or you are weak. No, that is not it, right? The same way people
Right.
have malaria, they go for treatment. It's the same way people have mental health condition, and once they get or they go for treatment, they are fine. So you are not weak, you are not less. It doesn't mean that, oh, because I'm from certain background, that's why I'm having PTSD. No. And I want to say lastly, right? Stop blaming yourself, right? Stop saying, oh, I caused it. And then that then leads to your feeling of guilt. Your trauma is not your fault. If you could fight it, if you could avoid it, it would not have happened. It means it was totally beyond your control. So your trauma is not your fault, is not your your mistake or your errors. So stop blaming yourself. However, your healing is your responsibility. Thank
Right.
you.
Right. Thank you so very much for that, Ben. Let me just take a final message here. This is from Habiba in Ikoyi, and she says concerning therapy, one can actually contact Meme Sanctuary. It's an NGO that one can actually reach out. So that's NEEM Sanctuary. So you can always take a look at them online, reach out to them. It's an NGO, so I mean, I can put that out there. Thank you so very much for that, Habiba. Very much appreciated. And once again, thank you so much to you, Ben. I've been talking to Benedict Sama. He's a licensed clinical psychologist. We're definitely going to have you back on the show at a later date to talk about a lot of other things that we tend to avoid and run away from. I don't know if that's PTSD, but looking forward to having those conversations with you in the future. Thank you so much. All right, Ben. Have a great Wednesday and a great rest of the week. I'll talk to you on the other side. Lagos,
All
Nigeria,
right.
the entire world. Thank you. All right. Thank you for being a part of the show this morning. It has been quite a beautiful show and very enlightening one, to be honest. So if you're listening right now and something has resonated with you, please know you're not weak, you're not crazy, you're human, and it is very okay to ask for help. Until next time, my name is Ayoko Mikekiriako, and this has been Lagos Talks.
Flag is this? Indian. Flag is this? Indian. Don't want to speak to me after what I said, but you know, I've been doing some thinking and we can work things out. Maybe I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm sorry. You know, I've been doing some thinking too. You little freak, don't play with toys. On pen game, your name is Renea, but on the road, your name is Oeg. You give head to everyone. Your rap name should have been Heady One. When that man them boss on your grill, you be like, it's a bit of a sticky one still. No. Now her ass is back. Hey, Mark, good question. Did she bust it open or arch her back? Don't even answer that. Can't we are all in the Christmas spirit. Got me catching one ho ho ho. So let me enter her for Christmas spirit. I was in the yard singing jingle bells. She was in the yard trying to jingle balls. I was in the yard having Christmas dinner.